It's 6 o'clock and we're going to get started, and we love to get started on time. Today, we're going to talk about something very, very dear to, I think, all of our hearts is about creating likability. And we always hear this term that, listen, you need to be a likable person, but now all of us are in this virtual environment. So one of the questions that even came into my mind when I was talking with Mira is how do we become, we know that this is so important, but how do we do it even in a virtual setting? So today I've got with us Mira Swarup. She's a leading impact communication, executive presence coach and speaker. And she's going to tell us about the research, but it speaks that likable people are more likely to keep their jobs, and people are also likely to outperform others that are not. So today we're going to learn what these secrets are, the secrets of the most charismatic people, the people who light up a room, even a virtual one, when they walk into it, or I would say zoom into it. These people that everyone likes and wants to be around. We are going to learn how to connect with anyone and address nervousness in social settings, business settings. And especially, we're going to focus on the virtual environment and how we can actually take the skill there. The three takeaways that we will get is how to present oneself in social and business situations, how to build rapport, and how to be charismatic. A little bit about Mira. I think a lot of you already know her, but she is an army child who uses the charm of the olive greens to help people create an impactful first impression that lasts. 9 years ago, she discovered her passion for personifying people, and since then, she has led workshops on executive presence, likability, and difficult conversations. Her clients include BCG, KPMG, Coca Cola, eBay, all of those Fortune 500 companies that we all have heard about. And we're very, very lucky to have Mira with us on Sipping Thoughts. So, first of all, Mira, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much, Sukriti. If I could just fly across the screen and give you a hug for this beautiful introduction that you just gave. That was lovely.
Virtual.
Thank you.
But Mira,
Absolutely.
I want to
Absolutely.
ask you a couple of questions before we get into the session. So, we
Sure.
know that you are an impact communication coach. You coach some of the leading executives in India and around the world. I want to understand from you that in these troubled times, what are you finding as some of the biggest issues that people are facing, especially in careers and being at home and being in virtual environments?
Sukriti, you ask a wonderful question. These turbulent times where we are facing uncertain scenarios, and it's been 1.5 years, it still feels uncertain. The top three that stand in my way when I see that people what's not working in this scenario right now is, of course, one, the mental space, the mental health during COVID times. We aren't, the experience of this uncertainty often binds us so much that we aren't as open to do the things that we were often so happy to do. So there's this experience of being constricted, right? The mental health just holds you back because we're losing people we love. Earlier, it was just somebody somewhere, but now it's names we know. And this time it's been tougher. So that significantly has played a role. The second thing in the corporate experience, I am aware that because of this disconnection, this, we're separated from people. So there's a lot of frustration among us about wanting to connect, wanting to share ideas, wanting to bond with people. I mean, in the last 1.5 years, people have joined jobs and left them while they've never met their colleagues ever. So it's again a very difficult experience to go through this transition, and I wonder if their reasons for leaving the job was partly one of that they didn't really form a connection with them there. And the third thing that I was chatting with one of my friends who's also a personal development coach for people, her name is Deepika Chawla, and she mentioned with me her experience when she's been at her organization. A lot of women people are leaving the workforce because it's so difficult to balance their life between managing things at home as well as outside. It's understandable. We've had a good 1.5 years, but that's not still helping set a flexibility in place. Systems take time to set up, and often the experience is being overwhelmed. So these are the toughest spaces that I believe people face. Yes.
I know it's been a very, very challenging environment, more so challenging for women. But I want to understand also a little bit about your passion. And your passion is really about communications. So what took you down this path? Because you changed careers 9 years ago?
Yes, that's quite it, Sukriti. You know that part. So I love sharing this about myself. Though Sukriti already did, I'm an army brat. And there are some known army brats on this group, some of the people I know.
So hi to all the army brats.
Hi to all the
Please
army brats.
identify yourselves.
Yes, all the army brats, give me a high five on the chat right now. I know one for sure, Kamini Sharma right now, but I'm aware of a lot of army brats here, so please give your high fives on the chat itself. And I give a lot of credit to this experience. My father was in the army, my grandparents were in the army, and that gave me a lot of exposure, which a lot of people on the chat would completely vouch for, that yes, this is an experience that stays with you for long. 9 schools across 16 years of education. I promise you I wasn't thrown out of any one of them. But that's the experience where not making friends is not an option. Stepping out there and connecting with people is something that just gets grained in you. So no matter what the setting, you are thrown into a space where you like connect, find a space and get comfortable. That's something that just runs on auto mode because you're not born with it, gets created. And I say that with some experience. Sukriti, am I with you? I sense
You
I'm
are.
losing connection.
Just a little bit of your voice just broke over there.
Okay, am I with you now?
Yes, you are.
Super. So, I wanted to share this experience that the army has given this experience that you think that some people are just born with a sense of charisma and such a sense of likability. And being in the army allowed me to see that walks in a man, walks in a girl, and after a while walks out a gentleman and walks out a lady. The skill that can be inculcated and you're not necessarily born with it is what I got from the army. And that experience took me further, but I was still very not sure of doing what I'm doing. So I did my bachelor's in biotechnology, master's in clinical research, have worked in the healthcare for 10 years, experimented with humans in clinical research. But universe was kind, showed me a line and said, there is something I can contribute to the world with. And when I got this opportunity to start to add value to people, helping them see how they can personify themselves, help them see how they can connect with the other person gently, use graces and manners like a coat they put on when they walk into a boardroom, but use them as a way of being able to really form deep connections. That's the kind of work that I'm grateful that I get to do with people now. Yeah.
Thank you. And Mira, I know everybody is dying to get started, so we will turn over the session to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sukriti. Super. So we've got 147 people here. For the first thing, allow me to say my gratitude to all of you for signing up for this course, for signing up for this classroom, and seeing how you can make the most of it. I say my gratitude for 2 reasons. You could have been anywhere else right now. You could have been watching Netflix, you could have been attending a boardroom call, you could have literally been anywhere, but you chose to be here. I respect those who choose to invest in themselves. And it's my promise to you that when you come out of this classroom, you will feel invested in, you will feel like you've gotten something. That's my commitment to you. And so that this is a fruitful session for you, the second thing, could you all make sure that you're asking your questions? If you could ask your questions on the go, Sukriti is going to help make sure that we collect the information in order and we're able to answer them in the question Q&A section. Or if it shows up, we'll try to answer it there and there. But do participate, do interact, because when you interact, I'm able to serve you better. If you guys are with me, could I hear it in the chat box? With you, Mira. Wow, super. Thank you, Are. Thank you. Thank you, Yogendra. All right, people. Lovely, lovely. I love the energy here. This is beautiful. Okay, so let's pause this now. Let me share with you something known as a likability bias. But before that, let me ask you a question. Think of one person in your life, and I'm trying to ask you to go towards your work life. So somewhere in your professional world, think of one person in your life you really like in your professional space, and watch my question. That person shouldn't be your friend. That person shouldn't be somebody you know really well, but you know for a fact that you like them. There's something about them that you like. think of that one person and put it in the chat box. What about them do you like? And I'm really wanting to hear some answers here. So let's hear from you guys. What about that person at your workplace, somebody you work with? It could be a client as well, with somebody you know in your social, preferably somebody from work. Team management, okay, Alok, got that. Professionalism, beautiful. Funny, Vinita, I like that. You like funny people. All right. Willingness to help, awesome. They look open, they're genuine, convincing skills, knowledgeable. Oh, wow. Her energy and positivity, love that, Lavina. Leadership, social graces, tough negotiation skills. Wow, you like people who can negotiate well. Appreciative nature, detailing. So people who pay attention to detail. Energy, got you. Made me comfortable, no judgment. Beautiful observation, Sharda. Spontaneous, their personality, positivity, sincerity, smile, ability to connect, sense of humor, such a sweetheart. Okay, got you. Warm, stage presence. That impresses you. Got it. Solutions. I'm loving what you guys are sharing. Pardon me, I can't read all of them, but this is beautiful what you're sharing. The last one is I'm reading it out. My boss's boss is very genuine, ability to connect with everyone, especially have lunch with different people. Okay, so you're loving the fact that this person consciously makes the effort to connect across any so-called hierarchy and barriers. Love that. Okay, so now each one of you have recognized so many traits about likable people. I just saw humbleness, I saw kindness. There is this whole mix of conversation we have about likability. So now this is where I want to simplify likability for you. And let me share with you a piece of research which helps you start to see what makes us want to prefer likable people. So usually between likability and competence, let me ask you this question. Between likability and competence, somebody's good with their skill set, somebody knows their job, somebody's doing their job right. If you were to choose between likability and competence, what would you choose in somebody? Yes, completely, Sukriti, tough one. Oh, okay, a lot of people are likable. Like, depends on the situation. Alok got a special one there. Okay, you want a balanced mix. I got you. Yes. Like it. Okay, so a lot of you are biased here. You're like, oh, Mira's leading a session on likability. Of course, I'm going to put likability there. Okay, got it. So I'm glad. So there is a whole conversation showing up about should I prefer likability? Should I prefer competence? So let me show you something and help you see some research. So this was done by Harvard Business. And let me show you the slides already. If we put likability on a scale on the x-axis and we put competence on the y-axis, the research done was across 4 different organizations across 10,000 employees. And this is what they saw, that with most people that they work with, they can categorize them into 4 categories depending on the person's competence and the person's likability. So some of the final outcomes are understandable, like likability grows on the x-axis and competence grows up on the y-axis. Some people are obviously visible, people who are very high on competence but very low on likability, the kinds who are very difficult to connect with, the people who kind of make it look like I'm doing you a favor, the ones you hesitate to give a call, the ones you know might get a little rowdy or rude. You just don't feel comfortable approaching them. Those are what we call as the competent jerk. I would have loved to put this name. I also want to tell you that Harvard put this name as well for a label for them. Going forward, there is the lovable fool who is variably high in likability and variably low in competence. Please understand the word variably. Of course, if this person was sitting here in terms of competence, you may have not preferred them. But please understand variably low in competence and high on likability. That makes a significant difference to how this person is perceived. Now, this is the lovable fool, and people like having this person around. So this is how you measure them. Then there is the lovable star. Of course, the prime person who's high on competence, who's high on likability. For the number of people that you wrote, for all those names that those people you identified when I asked you a question, there's a high chance that person falls in this category. They are the lovable star and you like them, and there's a good reason that significant others also like them in the organization for some sort of a combination of skills that they show. And then there is the incompetent jerk, who is neither satisfactory here or there. Now, very naturally, most organizations, if they identify the incompetent jerk, it's very natural for them to already pull them out and say, okay, this doesn't work for our systems. I'm sure they must have put the effort to train them, to make them better, all of that, but it didn't work, so they pulled them out. I can see some hands go up, so I invite you to put in your questions in the chat box, or and Sukriti, if you can help me manage that, that will be beautiful. Yeah, thank you. So most organizations will filter out the incompetent jerk and they'll pull them aside. And given a chance, anybody would love to work with the lovable star. If you got an opportunity to work on a project with this person, or if you got a chance that there was some sort of a connection that you could create with the lovable star, you would love for it to happen. But let me ask you a question. The dilemma is, if you need to work with someone and you have a choice, imagine you're starting your own team and you get a chance to choose somebody, whether it's a peer or whether it's a junior, but you get to choose people. And pardon me, I missed putting this off. You get to choose people. Who do you work with? Okay. So my question is, if you were to choose between the competent jerk or the lovable fool, who would you choose? Can I hear your answers in the chat box? It's an important project and you want to work with somebody, who would you choose? Okay, so Ankita's like a mix of both. There isn't a mix of both. The lovable fool is variably low in competence, variably low. So he was really low, he wouldn't be in this organization, but the person is variably low. Okay, so a lot of people say the lovable star, the people say jerk. Okay, got it. So we're seeing a mixed bag of conversation here, all right? And I completely recognize when some of you say, hey, Mira, you know what, no matter what it is, when I get a chance to bring people on my team and I want to create a team, I will go with a competent jerk, because I need to train somebody who's already good at their job. I can't train a fool. And as much as this may be the understanding, I want to share this piece of research that actually helped see from people's responses, even if a lot of people said, I would choose to work with a competent person. But because of the other ways of the research happening, the results came out clearly that when they get a chance to choose, they will choose the lovable fool. And I'll give you reasons for it. When they want to work with somebody who's likable, because the person is likable, there is a desire inside us to find the competence inside them. We are biased to find the competence inside them. We are biased to find a reason to retain them. We are biased to see, hey, what can I do so that this person can be placed in the apt place? Nobody makes that effort with the competent jerk. The competent jerk gets pulled in when there is an absolute crisis, when there is an absolute no way to get out of the situation. But when you get an opportunity to plan things, then people 9 out of 10 choose the more likable person. They don't want to hesitate to call up somebody and say, hey, could you get this done for me? They don't want to feel this animosity between, hey, I just got off the call, but I don't feel fulfilled about how he took the information or how she took the information. That whole disconnect that happens with somebody who is competent, but not so great with people skills, that disconnect makes it difficult for a long-term correlation. And that's what I wanted to help you see, how likability often matters over competence just a tad bit. While we're understanding this, I can understand there might be a lot of debate going on in your head, and it's completely valid. So of course, by all means, put your questions out there. But while we're looking at seeing how important likability is, I want to jump into this conversation immediately. For us to start to create likability, there are these 3 pillars you want to start building your attention towards. I'm making it very simple and easy for you to grasp, because a lot of you, when asked, what did you like about that person? You gave me various answers. And these various answers easily fit into these 3 pillars that I'm going to speak about. So the first thing that helps us start to even like people, I might be speaking from a space of absolute superficial judgment, but the first thing that makes us even start to like people is their physical presence. And I understand in the virtual world, it's a question mark right now. We have heard that first impressions are the first impressions are the best impressions and they're the only impression. But the physical presence matters significantly, even in the virtual world. And we will speak about it briefly just in a bit. When we're speaking about physical presence, we are, of course, speaking about how you appear. That means how much do you take care of your own grooming, your attire, and also in terms of your body language. So what part of yourself do you care to express and reflect? That's physical thing. Quickly going to, allow me to create this. I put this on the slide for a particular reason. So likability works in two parts. Likability works for first impressions and likability works for long-term relationships. For first impressions, the physical part matters significantly. But as the relationship grows further, the physical part significantly reduces and the other pillars start to stand out. So allow me to share what those are. But that's what I'm saying. Within the first 5 to 10 seconds, people make a 55% impression about you when they're meeting you, even in the virtual space. If you're not physically present, then they will rely on your audio. They will rely on your speaking skills to make an impression. This is what we do. This is human nature. It's natural for us to immediately judge and box people into a category. You could either fight this or you could embrace this and use it for yourself. That's physical figure. Next thing that's really critical for helping your likability be enhanced is your social presence. When you're talking about social presence, we're not only talking about your social media presence, though that matters as well. But with your social presence, we're about how you introduce yourself, how you interact with people, the ease with which you create small talk, the ease with which you're able to introduce two people to each other, the ability to catch that there is something off and be able to call out the elephant in the room. That also comes from your social skills. So when there is this myth about likability that people have, that likable people are nice people. Likable people don't ruffle feathers. Likable people are, you want to have fun at a party. Those are the people to hang out with. And that's precisely where I want to break the myth. Likability is not about being nice. Often, likability is about being able to take a bold decision in a difficult moment. Likability is often calling it out to somebody without necessarily offending them. But likability is also about taking the risk that what I'm saying may offend, and yet this requires to be spoken. That's also likability. So when we're talking about the physical aspect of likability and the social aspect of likability, and I broke a few myths for you, I'm still asking you, what according to you is the third pillar for likability? I want to hear it in the chat box.
Interesting. I'm also thinking.
Yeah.
So
oh, wow, we've got smart
empathy,
people.
Yeah,
we've got
I was
smart
also
people.
going to say talent, adaptability, emotion,
Yes.
empathy, making
Awesome.
people comfortable, open-minded, EQ, communication, knowledge,
Beautiful.
mental connection, trust, values, competence, knowledge, mental EQ, connectivity.
Awesome. So all these responses that came in, Sukriti, actually tell us we've got an amazing set of viewers who are really smart with this information. And I'm going to pick up a few words here and combine it. Before I do that, let me share with you, when we're speaking about likability, and especially when we're caring to share about likability with you, a part of me believes competence is taken care of. You are competent enough, and that's why you have chosen to brush up this skill. You're not here because you're not competent. You're here because you've already been there, done that, and you're like, hey, how do I take it a notch higher? So competence is not something we were going to talk about when you talk about likability, at least immediately. But for all of you who spoke about trust, you spoke about emotions, you spoke about empathy, you spoke about values, you spoke about feelings, that's what I'm talking about. Your third part is your emotional intelligence. Now give me a yes in the chat box if you guys have seen the movie 3 Idiots. Yeah, seen it, watched it 20 times.
We still remember it till today. It's so interesting.
It is so interesting. It's one of the best that I've ever seen. So, for all of us who've seen Three Idiots, you need to recall that scene where Amir Khan meets Kareena Kapoor for the first time at a wedding, at her sister's wedding, and he knocks on her shoulder and says, "Is insan se shadi mat karna." And that insan's name is Suhas in the movie. And then Kareena's like, "Why?" And it's like, "Ye price tag hai. Proof deta hu." And then he actually gives her a proof. He goes and drops chutney on that man's Italian leather shoes, and he breaks into a fit right there in the middle of the party. Now, that moment, till that moment, if anybody saw Suhas, they would rate him very high on his presence in terms of his physical presence and his social presence. But the minute that incident happens, everything breaks. Now, this is something I learned from my coach. The emotional presence is so significant, without which the first two are of no use. You're literally just an empty suit if the emotional presence lacks in how you interact. And that's quite the foundation for developing your people skills. Give me a with me in the chat box if you guys connect with what I just said. Emotionally with you. God, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Got you guys. Super, super. I'm so glad you guys are getting onto this. So those were the three aspects about likability that we just created that have you start to see that what do you want to start focusing on? See, some of you may already be good with your physical presence. And when I say physical presence, I'm not talking about the natural features you were born with. No, I'm talking about you have the ability to identify what clothes look good in me, how should I be using my hands on screen, or when I'm meeting people. You may be somebody who may be conducting themselves really well physically. You turn out well, you look like a model, or you look presentable. Socially, you're great with your anecdotes, you're great with your points of conversation. All of this helps you build your likability. But the reason we put these three here is so that you're able to look at where do you want to work more? What is it that you want to spend your time doing more? Many a times, a lot of us need to focus on developing the social and the emotional together. That combination is the one that takes the most effort. Physical, low-hanging fruit, you'll crack it. Social, pretty much learn a few things and do it. But emotional and social together, that's a true path. So let me create some precise examples for you so that you really see what I'm talking about. We're talking about physical. I want to finish the physical in 5 minutes so that we can jump to the social and help give you some more meat in this conversation. When we're talking about your physical presence, I'm going to go off screen now and I'm going to come right on camera. Yes. Okay. Sukriti, I can see you right now. So are you on Spotlight? Am I on Spotlight?
You are on Spotlight.
Okay, great, super. So the conversation is about your physical presence when you are on screen. So guys, take this down. You might want to take this as notes. Write down A, B, C. A stands for your ambience. B stands for your body language. And C stands for your clothes. And this is what you want to start taking care of very powerfully in your virtual presence so that your likability is enhanced. Please also watch in this particular section. I'm focusing so much on your physical presence because here your first impression matters. And if you use these tools in relationships that you're already existing, you know these people, you've been meeting them, you've been interacting with them. But if you can use these tools with the existing relationships, your likability goes up there as well. So here, let me give you something. Even though I created ABC for you, rule number 1, show up. When I say show up, get your cameras on. Have your presence be noticed. Take what it takes, shed what needs to be shed, but cut out there and have yourself become visible. The more you're visible, the more people remember you. There is some stickiness about a face versus a voice, unless you sound like Amitabh Bachchan. But I prefer that you use the whole art of appearing on camera. So that's my number 1 request. Now, when we're talking about A, we're talking about your ambience. So very quickly, your ambience involves your location, where you're taking the call from. So you want to make sure the noise is taken care of. Just cancel all the noise. What you want to take care of is the background. Now, a lot of us have got very comfortable with these virtual backgrounds that we're using from Zoom. I might get some retaliation for this. I want to share this any which ways. Likeability is often about a lot of authenticity. We put screens that are not us. If you put your real background, you're displaying a form of authenticity. I understand you want to sometimes avoid people to look at any distraction. You don't want people to see going back and forth, and that can be distracting. I understand that may be your reason. And I want you to consider that is there any other way to work around it? Because there is something trusting. You create an image of trust in the person. There's something trusting when you see the realness versus a virtual impression. So I invite you to consider that when possible, have a real background. And when we're talking about a real background, have it clutter-free. Absolutely. What also significantly helps, and I'm sharing this, it's a science of being present or virtually. It's beautiful if you can have depth in your background. It creates a lovely image of you when as opposed to sometimes against a wall. Though Sukriti looks great and she's absolutely standing out like a star with sitting thoughts in her background, it helps your presence come out. Like you really pop out of the screen when you have a deep background. So that's something I want to share with you. Another quick thing about your physical presence, have light falling directly on your face and not from top, because when it comes from top, it looks like you're shadowing. So there are these shadows that form on your face and they take away from the impact of your physical presence. So you want to be very careful about that. And the next quick thing that I want to tell you is going to be, have your camera be settled in a way where it is at eye level. What some of us end up doing, which I'm going to do just temporarily for right now, is that we end up having our laptops here. And then this is the impression it gives, that you're looking down upon someone. You think, yeah, but Mira, I don't think like that. You don't think like that. It's a very subconscious messaging that happens. And that's precisely why I invite you to start leveraging, putting the camera not just on your table, but actually elevated higher for meetings that matter. I gave you the impression, please consider this for your first interactions where you're really still cracking the ice, you really are still making the connection. For relationships that are already created, there's a deeper understanding. The physical aspect starts to not matter so much. Give me in the chat box with you, Mira.
Mira, before we go ahead, there's a question. What's your opinion on blurring?
Got it. So that's a good question, and that's also worthy of answering. Blurring is a little better than having it with a complete virtual background, because with blurring you can still see something, but that's the deal. With blurring, you see somebody crossing across. Again, as much as possible, if you can avoid the blurring, but if it's absolutely not a choice, you don't want to distract the other person, then of course, please go ahead and choose what works for you. Yeah. Super. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was about having grow likability when we're presenting ourselves physically in the space. Now, the next thing that I want to jump on is your social presence. And when we're talking about social presence, allow me to take you some specifics on a slide. Give me just a bit. For everybody, because we just covered your physical presence, feel free to take a quick snapshot of this slide for your reference so that you know exactly what we spoke about. We spoke about ambience. Now, I want to quickly speak to you about body language and also about your clothes. When we're speaking about body language, so after you've all taken a snapshot, I'm going to count as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so snapshot's done. Great. Now let me come back to your body language. With your body language, you want to ensure that you're using your hands in conversation. And there's a science behind it. Exactly, there's a science behind it. There's a science that people trust you better. There is a sense of wanting to know more from you. There's a curiosity that gets generated. But even more importantly, when you use your hands, you appear engaged in what you're sharing. You appear like you're really invested in what you're sharing, and that drives a message beautifully forward. It looks like you care. So I invite you to use your hands in sync with your conversations, not jazz hands that just keep moving, but in sync with your conversation. So that's the reason I wanted to talk about hands with you. And so we spoke about body language, we spoke about this. Very quickly, talking about your attire. So when we're talking about your attire, your clothes, two things. When you are presenting, so like I'm presenting today, when you're presenting or you know you're making a great first impression, I invite you to start wearing bold colors. So bold colors, that means straight colors, no stripes, no patterns, no designs on them, just bold colors. Because when you're actually presenting, and if there's a video recording happening, there tends to be a lot of wavering of those lines. If you're wearing something striped, it tends to waver, and that doesn't give a great impression. And then other thing is it helps you separate yourself from the background. In case the background has some designing or something, it helps you separate instantly. So that's the reason I'm inviting you to wear bold colors. For ladies and gentlemen, it's wonderful if you're on a call, and it's fine if you're wearing business casual, but if you're on a call, wear something that is collared. So for instance, I'm wearing like a Chinese collar, or wear something that has flaps on it, like a collar, or ladies could wear like a scarf. But that kind of a presence, again, you're indicating you cared before you stepped into this call. That's the intention with which I invite you to care about how you dress, how you present yourself, and this really matters in your first impressions. So that is about your physical space. So Kriti, I trust you that you're helping note the questions that are coming in. Indian attire, super awesome, please. My co-facilitator wears a sari in all her sessions. You want to wear your Indian suit, that's completely fine. Go ahead, that's perfect, works really well. Keep it formal as much as possible. Now, I want to jump to the social part.
One thing, Mira, before we go ahead, there's a bit of static coming in, so some people have noticed. I think maybe from the earplugs, just check that.
Oh, certainly, certainly. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'll be careful about that. Yes, thank you for the feedback. Now, comes the next part. We're talking about your virtual presence. Now, this is the dilemma that some of us have. The virtual presence is split. It's so extensive. Why? We're talking about email, phone, meetings across clients, stakeholders, and peers. And we're talking about social media as well. We can't let go of that. Our virtual presence is across, and maybe some more platforms that I haven't spoken about. How do we start to find our space in this virtual space where we come across as likable? So what I'm going to share with you over the next few slides is going to be opportunity for you to exercise your social skills across all these platforms. Whether you're on email, whether you're on phone, whether you're in meetings, whether you're on social media, you'll be able to exercise these skills across these platforms. So what I'm sharing with you is agnostic of the platform. Start to see how you can leverage this where required. So let's go with this. Likeable people are often known to be the ones who have ability to handle compliments well. And how you receive a compliment and how you give a compliment starts to show. So with some women leaders that I've noticed who've been coming up, who wanting to rise up in the organization, this is one of the things that I consciously have tell them. When somebody gives you a compliment, take it. Literally take it. Without the desperation that I'm showing on my face, please take it. Embrace it if you must. When somebody gives us a compliment, we say, oh no, that wasn't a problem. Or, oh, no, it wasn't too much. Or, oh no, the team helped. There is a lot of no involved when somebody gives us a compliment, and we end up saying no in some way or the other. Or we downgrade it. Now, this is my invitation for you. Start choosing your words where you're actually appreciating the other person for saying what they said. So thank you. I'm glad you said that. So when you say I'm glad, you're telling them, hey, you just made me happy. That's so kind of you to say. You're just calling them kind for giving you a compliment. Whether they gave you a compliment on your presentation, whether they gave you a compliment on your appearance, whether they gave you a compliment on some action that you took with the team, whatever you did, they gave you a compliment, take it. And this is how you receive a compliment. Now, some of you may question, hey, what about humbleness? Our parents taught us to be humble. Certainly, let's be humble. Say this and then say, the team certainly helped. Say this and then say, I also have to say thank you for all the help you gave me so that this happened. So take the compliment and certainly find a way to say, I'd also like to acknowledge you. I'd also like to acknowledge them. I would give a lot of credit to so and so, but please receive compliments. When you receive it with such grace, people have a liking for you. Now, this is an extra tip that I want to give you. Let's consider somebody compliments you on your presentation, and you did a speech, you did a presentation, and somebody, your boss, compliments you, or shall we say your super boss compliments you, all right? So they say, hey, that was really good. I think you conducted it really well. And you say, thank you. I'm so glad you liked it. Since we are talking, I'm interested to understand which specific part got your attention the most, or which section did you like the most, or is there anything particular that got you thinking? When you ask a question like that, you're engaging into a conversation with somebody who likes you, and that is further creating a loop of likability. It's fine if the person said, hey, no, the whole thing was really nice and it was done well. That's all right. That's perfectly fine. But this is an opportunity for you to generate small talk with people you want to further engage in. Going forward, how do you give a compliment? You compliment the person, not the thing. What are you saying, Mira? I compliment people. So this is what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm putting you to test right now, okay? Give a compliment to somebody right now on the street. Imagine you're giving a compliment to your boss. Imagine you're giving a compliment to your spouse. Imagine you're giving a compliment to Sukriti. Put a compliment in the chat box right now.
Yep, you can all compliment me. I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear it on.
Oh my God.
You look lovely.
Thank you, Sonal. Thank you. Super. Appreciate for conducting the session. Thank you. Got it.
Thank you.
Got it. Super. Okay, you're engaging, thought out session, pretty graceful, beautiful, so energetic. You're so energetic. Thank you for putting this up. Beautiful, excellent session. I think the way you're connecting, compliment in public, criticize in private. I like that. Yes. Okay. Wow. There's so much. Sukriti, people love you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Loving this. By the way, guys, we're loving the compliments you're sending across to us. Thank you. That wasn't the intent, but thank you. We're loving it as much. Now watch how you're complimenting. Okay, so like really start to understand this. When somebody says excellent session, when somebody says great delivery, you're complimenting the thing. Excellent session, great delivery. You want to compliment the person? Say, hey, you delivered it so well. Hey, you did a really good job on that. So I can see some of you already have the signs and you're using the words you with us so well. But I want you to use it more consciously now. When you're complimenting people, say, hey, instead of saying, hey, great shirt, you look great in that shirt. Great insight. Hey, I like the way you just brought that point up. You want to compliment people, compliment them, not the thing. But lovely. Thank you so much for this practice that you just gave up on the chat box right now. So you delivered that presentation so well is quite. So use the word you, use the person's name. A lot of you use Sukriti and my name. So that is wonderful. And that's what I want you to practice. And say something specific. Like instead of saying, hey, great job, say, this is what I like about you. Hey, I like the way you think. And I like the way you approach that conversation versus, hey, you handle the clients really well. Say it as specifically as you can because that drives the compliment deeper. Now, some of you may ask, before I go to the asking, I want to tell you this. Get people to feel good about themselves. That's the bottom line that I want you to get. You want to create likability. You want to be perceived as a likable person without trying too hard. This is one way to do it. Get people to feel good about themselves. This is how you give compliments. You also help people feel good about themselves when you receive the compliment. When you don't receive a compliment very well, the other person walks away feeling a little awkward. So this is the bottom line I like you to get. Now, some of you may ask, hey, should I fake a compliment? I have nothing to compliment the person on, and you're telling me to just generate likability. So I give this to people to use when you're just starting off on something. You're meeting somebody for the first time, even if it's a virtual event, you're just interacting with them. And there's really nothing that you can compliment them on. Then compliment something non-personal. And you say, you know what, hey, isn't this event such a fantastic idea? I think we're going to learn a lot over here. So you complimented a non-personal event. You didn't compliment a person. You don't have to, but you don't have to fake a compliment. Find a non-personal compliment. Like instead, like, I'm having some great coffee right now. So you'd compliment the thing. Or you're going to talk about, hey, isn't this place done up so well? So you're going to compliment the place. A non-personal compliment, only because you're creating an air of positivity. You want to start off on a great footing, but you don't have to be fake. Super. So we got that aspect of it. I'm doing a quick time check and I am consciously jumping to something specific. So Sukriti, give me just a bit and I'm coming to just that. Back to my screen share. Now this is for all the leaders out there. All the leaders out there who have teams, who have at least 1 or 2 people reporting to them. Could you please put in the chat box, yes, I lead a team. Awesome. Oh, wow. We've got a lot of people. Okay. Wow. Lovely. So we've got a lot of leaders here. Super. So if you're one of those who leads a team, this is something that I want to give to you so that you start to create likability within the team. Okay. How do we do that? A beautiful way to create likability is to start asking questions, and the right kind of questions. So what I'm giving you is a leading way of thinking. You know those meetings that we start with our team and they're like, okay, what's the update? Okay, what are you doing? Okay, what are you doing? Okay, where is this headed? What is the role? Yes, we do step in. We sometimes have a little bit of small talk that, oh, you know what, my grandmother's ill. And, oh, you know what, this is happening. So sometimes some organizations and some teams have a little bit of small talk, but that small talk lasts for about just a minute or so and it jumps into work. I don't have a problem with the time, but I'm sensing that that connection isn't very, very deep. And this is what I like to give you to start to deepen your connection. And you could pull this off like a every meeting exercise. So if you meet your team like twice a week or you meet them once a week, whatever the frequency, and you could choose, okay, so Monday is the reflection day. And you choose to start your meeting with, hey guys, I have a question for all of you. And this is what the question may sound like. So there's a lighter set of questions and there's a deeper set of questions. Let me take you through the lighter set of questions first. You could just start off the meeting with saying, hey guys, we're going to discuss work, but let's take the first 5 minutes. I want to know, what is the most fun thing you did last week? It could be at work, it could be personally, whatever be it. But the minute you start with a question, it surprises people. They didn't know this was coming. But now, because you asked them something so beautifully personal about them, they're wanting to answer. And that creates a little buzz in your team itself. Another question, hey, what is a really good book you've read recently? Another question, what are you looking forward to doing this weekend? This is not just to one person. I invite you to ask this to everybody on the team. Do you have any Netflix recommendations? And then you see the kind of energy that buzzes, right? You're really knowing your team beyond, hey, what are you delivering? When is this going out? What did the client say? All that stuff. If the lighter questions interest you, I hope the deeper questions interest you further. This takes a little practice, but I invite you to start asking, because when you ask good questions, your listening needs to be even better. So when you ask questions like this, take responsibility for what may come your way. Your questions could be, what or whom are you grateful for in these tough times? When you ask a question like that, it's going to send a person into some reflection, and the person's going to really think, and he's going to pull something out of his heart and he's going to say it to you. Whether he says it on the call, whether he puts it in the chat box, you just touched a chord. When you touch a chord like that, you create an oxytocin moment. Oxytocin is a trust hormone that gets generated in people when they start to trust the other person. When you ask the right kind of questions, you generate that hormone inside and likability gets created. The science is deep. I'm giving it to you in a nutshell. Ask good questions and listen and respond appropriately. Going further, is there anyone in the team you'd like to acknowledge for supporting you in the last week? This is a question I highly recommend leaders ask, and just ask it in the room and put a second clause. You're not allowed to name me. You're not allowed to name me. You've got to call somebody out from the organization. If you can't recognize somebody in the team, that's fine. Do you know anybody in the organization you'd like to acknowledge who was helpful for you in this last time? Also, what is the biggest concern on your mind today? Now, this one's important for all the leaders out there. You post a question like this and just see what shows up in the chat, or just see what shows up when they are talking, depending on the size of your team. What is the biggest concern in your mind today? So the person actually speaks about, I'm wanting to make sure the report gets submitted before the weekly target, or I want to make sure that the client's deliverable happens before Thursday. There could be anything coming out that's really heavy on their mind. Or some of them might even say, I'm concerned about the upcoming appraisal. Somebody might be courageous to say that. Whatever be the space, you're going to start discovering what they're really thinking. Some of them may not show all their cards, and that's fine. But you're starting a new trend. You're starting to ask questions, and people are starting to really wonder, where is this coming from? It'll happen. People will doubt you, especially if you've never asked questions before. But you've got to start somewhere, and then you've got to keep doing it consistently. If you start to see a pattern with these questions, like this last one, among all the hats you wear at work, which one would you like to keep and which one would you like to give up? It's a very open question, and somebody might actually want to give up a role that's been given to them. Hey, high alert, your team member is telling you, I don't want to do this job, but I'm very happy to do that job. It's a high alert. It starts to tell you that this person, that doesn't mean you take the person off the job, but there's so many other strategies you can apply. That means you will consciously want to support this person on that role. You'll consciously want to keep checking in on that person to know if he's doing well in that role. So these are questions to help you get a pulse of your team, how they're doing, where they are, what's really mattering to them, and how they move forward. If you're seeing a trend here, be interested in them. That interest itself shows that you care. So how you handle the responses that come, whether you become preachy or whether you become concerned is not equal to worried. You're concerned for them, and you say, hey, this seems important. Let's connect about this. And you can send them a separate private message and say, okay, I heard you. Thank you for sharing. Not everything needs to be resolved on the call, but you've got the information, and that's your ammo to make a difference and therefore create likability. I gave you some hard work. I hope you like it. Give me a like it in the chat box. What do you think, Sukriti? And please take a snapshot of this meanwhile, guys. Just take a snapshot of this so that these questions are with you all the time. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And you don't have to do this with teams. You can do this with peers. You can reach out to each other. You can ask this question. You can create a buzz in your WhatsApp groups that are there. Just get to start to connect with people, and that's creating likability for you. Okay, another thing that I want to share with all of you. Pardon, my graphics have gone off, so ignore the photographs that are coming up. But what I really want to share with you here is how we connect with people in the virtual world. So your likability in your messages, okay? For a moment, if you can just not look at the other photographs and you can focus on what I'm putting on the right side. We send messages left, right, and center. Now let's talk about the special messages that need to go out. Now, special messages could be somebody's birthday, somebody's anniversary, somebody got promoted, somebody came out of COVID, and several other celebrations that happen. So these are those special moments that you want to acknowledge. You want to take a moment and wish the person well. Okay, what's a typical thing we do? It's somebody's birthday on the common group. On the common group, we say happy birthday and we get done with it. Sometimes we try to act cute and we say happy birthday, love, me and my dog Miles. Yeah, okay, a little bit cute, but that's not enough. So you want to be able to make it really personal. If you want to create a connection virtually, hey guys, leverage the platform, leverage the art of communication. It's powerful to create likability. So what do I mean? So let's give you a situation. If it's somebody's birthday, instead of saying, hey, happy birthday, I wish you all the best, may you prosper, may you have a lot of joy. So they anyways get those kind of wishes. And yeah, you can put a line or two of those kind of wishes. Maybe you're really praying for them, and I'm really glad you're praying for them. But you really want to make the guy feel good. You really want to get that girl to remember that you were thinking of them on their birthday. How? Make that message special. Now, let me read this out for you. Anisha, on your birthday, I'm reminded of the moment when you traveled an hour in Mumbai's bumper traffic so that you could come see me off at the airport for 5 minutes before I shifted to Hyderabad for good. It feels warm to have friends like you who care. Thank you for being who you are. You see, you didn't just say happy birthday, have a super awesome life. You told her, hey, I like you. And you know why I like you? I like you because of this. There may be several reasons you like her, but you just told her, hey, I like you. You did something awesome. And you just made her feel good about herself. Let's give you another example. Your team member does really well. Okay, he performs really well. He handles a conversation really well. Of course, you could tell the person, hey, great work. You could tell the person. Okay, so let me give you a different way of looking at this. And you'll catch a pattern in this. Varun, when I saw you speak as boldly to the client about how their changing expectations were a challenge to keep up with and how that impacted our delivery, I felt pleasantly surprised. I can imagine the courage it takes to stand up for your team, and I acknowledge you for doing that today. Thank you for being who you are. Both messages could have been as simple as happy birthday, hey, great work with the call, awesome, great to have you on the team, done. But you took the effort, not just to make it verbose, but you took the effort to recognize as specifically, hey, you're different because of this. And you could send this on text. Let's make it a notch higher. You could send it on a recorded voice message. Recorded voice messages sell beautifully. The person keeps it as a little reminder, yay, yay, this is what the person said. The energy travels 20,000 times faster with a recorded voice. And you want to take it up a notch higher? I'll give you something not many people do. Do you want to hear it? Do you want to hear it? Give me a yes in the chat box if you want to hear it. It's like, yes, I want to hear it. Yes, 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 I want to hear it. Let's take up the likability a notch higher. How can I give the same messaging a notch higher? Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Awesome, guys. So glad you're ready to hear it. So this is what you want to know. This message can be written and sent. This message can be recorded on an audio and sent. And this message can be recorded and a video and sent. Nobody sends a video message, but you cared to send a video message. So you picked up your phone and you said, Anisha, I'm missing you on your birthday. If you're not missing, don't say that. But Anisha, it's your birthday and I want to share something with you. I remember the time, etc., etc., etc. So you record this and you send it out. And you send it out saying, hey, Anisha, this is specifically for you. Don't just send the video. People sometimes don't look at videos. They think they're forwards. Please say this is specifically for you, right? And can't video messages seem intrusive? Aditya, I can sort of imagine where you're speaking from. I have tried that. And I'll tell you, video messages, not just for wishing people, but I've tried video messages I remember there was a time when I was going back and forth with a client on certain dates and something wasn't working out and I wasn't able to connect with them because I was traveling, voice call wasn't possible. I finally created a video message with clarity on, hey, this is what we'd like, this is how it's turning out. I would really like to make it work. This isn't working. Could you please help support me on this? I sent out a video message. It worked beautifully. This is something I learned from my coach. His name is Paratosh Pathak. You can go check him up. But a fantastic guy who teaches people how to network better. When you send a video message, people connect with you beautifully. So that's the thing I wanted to share with all of you. Thanks, Aditya. I like your question there. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because we've had a lot of people asking us questions. Sukriti, can
Yes,
I take
Mira, yeah, lots of questions that are coming in. But first of all, thank you. And is it okay that if we go over by a bit?
Oh, certainly. We can go over by a bit, and I'm okay to answer questions and anything that's coming up. In fact, allow me to share something very quickly because a lot of them have questions and things, and in case some of them drop off the call. So allow me to share something very quickly for all the questions that's coming up. I'd like all of you to take a snapshot of this page. For any one of you who have any questions on likability or communication and are looking to see how you can build your impact forward, write to me. I'll be happy to address them for you. You can also connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. My YouTube channel has a lot of value videos that you could benefit from, tips and communication that help you connect with people better. And all of this for your interest. For those of you interested, I'm also leading a course that's starting this weekend, and you can get in touch with me to know better. Yes, so Kriti, over to you.
Great. Anil, we'll start with your question. Anil Pankaj?
Yes, I could ask a question. I was basically wanted to ask Mira that what stage of relationship, should we ask? We continue to ask lighter questions, and what stage do we graduate to, some of the deeper questions that she has given example of?
Yeah. Right. You asked a very good question, and you've got me thinking. I never really measured it, but I'm speaking a little from experience. If you've known the person for about a month or two, like the person is fresh on your team for about a month or two, so they're still getting used to the way you work and things, a deep question might suddenly make them feel very intimidated. But once you know that the person's starting to settle in, you can start to see that they're also being a little comfortable talking to you. They're comfortable picking up the phone, giving you a call. You can sense the comfort, hit in the deep question to take it 2 notches deeper. Does that help?
Okay. I think they muted themselves, but it's okay. We got a couple of questions on emotional intelligence. So one is, what are good books to read on that? And one is how to improve your emotional intelligence. Okay. I know that's a course in itself, so we're going to get Mira back. So I was setting her up for that, by the way.
No, that's lovely. It's so sweet of you to ask. So let's give you the books first. That's a lovely question. The world famous book, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, a fantastic book for people to refer to for helping enhance their emotional intelligence. Another book that I believe has significantly helped me. I'll give you 2 books. One is Emotional Intelligence. The other is Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's a deep book that helps you realize your levels of awareness. So emotional intelligence often is confused with people that do have to suppress my emotions, do have to control my emotions. But emotional intelligence is not so much about controlling your emotions, it's more about understanding your emotions. Once you understand something, you have the ability to manage it. We often don't understand emotions, and that's why we can't manage them. So that's a lot about emotional intelligence. The book, Power of Now, loves beautifully. The third book I highly recommend, which is great on people skills and also your emotional intelligence, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And one of the most underrated or underpriced books, I would say, that's available on Amazon, but a gold mine of information that's out there. Yes.
The next one we'll take from Jan Pri. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one of our teammates, like when we asked how the things are going now, so they talked about COVID. So how do you handle such situation now in this time? How do we empathize if someone has lost a loved one due to this? How to handle this difficult situation or conversation in a team setting?
Right. Help me get your name right. Is it Jane-Free? I can't hear her. Okay, she's being muted. Okay, so I'm gonna call you Jane-Free because that's what I'm reading right now. Jane-Free, you ask a good question. When somebody for a fact that they've lost somebody and they're probably in the mourning phase, but they've come for a virtual call, they're present there, they're still feeling the loss of somebody. This is a difficult place to be. How do you empathize? Now, empathizing comes with practice, and empathizing is the art of identifying what is the person feeling. We're not asking you to sympathize. We're asking you to identify what is the person feeling. So you're going to acknowledge their grief. You're going to acknowledge their sadness. How do you acknowledge it? You're going to say, I can only imagine what you may be going through. I can imagine the grief. I can imagine the sadness. And when they're on a call and you're all meeting virtually, you also might want to tell them, are you okay to be on this call right now? It's also okay to offer to them, would you want to take this conversation at a later time? Would you like me to connect with you later to have you understand? 9 out of 10 times they'll say, no, I'm okay to be on this call. But the fact that you acknowledge that they've gone through a difficult time and they may be needing their own space. So you acknowledge their feeling and you acknowledge their need. That makes a significant difference to your connection. I hope that helps, Jane-Free.
Very nice. Very well said. One question that has come up, of course, and I don't know who asked it, but I will ask it on their behalf, is when you're complimenting your boss, how do you not sound like a suck up?
That is so crazy. Yes, I know what you're talking about. How do you not sound like a suck up? By not being a suck up. A suck up is literally someone who is inauthentic. And inauthenticity is something that you want to ask yourself. When you have thought of something you want to say to your boss, the point is not to compliment him. The point is to find, what about him do I like? The job is not to compliment him. The first job is to find, the first action is, what about him do I like? Can you choose what you like? If you could say, I like the way he strategically thinks, you can also consider saying, I like that he challenges and it also annoys me. Then you can actually genuinely give a compliment both ways and say, boss, I wanted to share this with you. There's something that happens in the room when you challenge. I have to say, it's something that annoys me and I'm also in awe of you for that. I wish I could see something as far as you do, but I want to say it annoys me. You can be genuine, you can give a compliment, and you can also say something that you don't like about it. That's how I would invite you to be. So be authentic, and as a first step, find out what about them do you like, and not just find something to compliment them on. Yeah.
Next question we'll take from A. Datta. Go ahead. A. Datta. Okay, we'll move to Sumit Sharma.
Thank you, Sukriti, and thank you, Mira. This is such a meaningful session. My question is specifically to understand what all tangible things, a few of them could be done to increase your likability when you are just about or just joining a new organization. So the initial times when there's a lot of perceptions that are going to be made, how can you increase your likability?
Beautiful, Sumit. Sumit, I really like how you're asking that question when you want to create that likability right in the first few months. And that's a beautiful ground to start creating likability. Let me give you a list of both do's and don'ts. What you do want to do is you want to very consciously be an observer across meetings. So we sometimes get into this whole thing of, I have to jump in and I have to participate and I have to just be out there. But I invite you as an action to be a keen observer in all meetings. When you're being an observer, you're also responding to people's point of view. So Sumit, it can sometimes be a little strange for people to just have somebody who's sitting and not participating. So by participation, I mean, I invite you to use your body language and nod and respond and say, interesting, I can see where that's coming from. Or that's an interesting point of view. So in the first few months, what you're not wanting to do is find a reason to disagree with anybody. You first want to take a moment to understand them, observe them, see where they are headed, and then find a moment to individually approach somebody and say, hey, I heard you say this, and I had a different point of view. So when you're wanting to disagree, you're consciously stepping in and say, I had a different point of view, and I wanted to know your thoughts on that. How does it work in this organization? Have we considered doing this? So this is one of the key things that I'd like you to do in terms of identifying or practicing acceptance, observing and avoiding disagree. The second thing that I want to quickly tell you, start when you're in meetings specifically, because in the virtual environment, your interactions is going to be meetings. It is going to be meetings all the time. So start observing who is the decision maker and who is the advisor. You would want to start noticing the network sync that happens between the decision maker and the advisor. When we start to present a point of view, we want to often convince the decision maker, but you want to make sure that the advisor is also someone, if he's an influencer on the decision maker, you want to make sure you get that information really well. If the advisor is an influencer on the decision maker, you want to start to find a way to win the advisor even before the meeting starts. So that's something that I'd like you to know. I hope that helps me.
The last question we'll take from Smita. Smita, go ahead.
Thank you, Sukriti. Thank you, Mira, for such an amazing session. It took me back in time when I was working. I have a question. Although I've left a job, it's more than a decade, but there was a specific situation, where I was a team member, and there was one position for which all of us contested, and I was promoted. So when I was among them, I was a very likable person. But the moment, I was leading them, I've really, really struggled for a very long time to,
Mhm.
because they liked me as a person, but they could not accept me as a leader.
I understand.
So in such a situation, I struggled a lot. So what advice would you give to people who are in a similar situation?
I understand where you're coming from, Smita, and thank you for asking that question. It is a tricky situation where suddenly you step up from your peers, you get
Yeah.
chosen to be above, and then you find your experience is lonely. Up there, they aren't really getting, hey, I chose to step up, I took the opportunity, but hey, I'm not against you. But somewhere that experience of bitterness is created in them, and you have no role to play in it. You have no role to play in it. So their acceptance for you as a leader could take a while to develop, as long as your need to impress them isn't the point that you're always in conversation about. What I'm meaning to say is a lot of us women leaders, when we are stepping up from like this level to this level, and a lot of our peers are probably in positions where they start reporting to us, it starts to affect us so much. What are they thinking about me? So it's like a perception of a perception game that we're playing all the time. And we're always worried about, hey, that person needs to think well about me. This is what this person needs to do about me. This person needs to have a good impression about me. And all our actions start to align with that. And Smita, you could challenge this right now by saying, but Mira, didn't we just discuss all the actions we need to take to make the other person like us? Didn't we just do all of that for the last 1 hour? We did. And I'm giving it with an extra clause that says, the point is not to obsess over all of this. The point is to make it easier for you. The point is to create a relatability between you and the person. But my interest is not to have you fuss over it, that the person needs to like you. If you can do this as a way of, hey, this is me, and I do this across people, and I will like you whether you're a peer, and I will like you whether you're a junior, and I will speak to you in the same way, people will start to notice that you're not somebody who's putting on an act. You're not somebody who just worn the cap of a leader and you're out there throwing your weight around. So I invite you to drop the fuss about, I wonder what the world is thinking about me. That would be significantly liberating. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I know lots of you have questions, and I apologize that we've not been able to take them all, but I've given Mira's LinkedIn address. She's very, very accessible there. Please do connect with us. And if you all agree with me that Mira is one of the best coaches and why she's my favorite, I hope, like I said in the beginning, you all now understand why. So, with that, Mira, a very, very thank you from us. And any closing tip you'd like to leave us with?
Maya Angelou said this, so I'm going to quote her. She said, people rarely remember what we said. People rarely remember how it was said, but people always remember how we made them feel. You have a significant step ahead when you can start to impact how people feel. And communication is one of those ways that helps. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. We have lots of exciting sessions on Sipping Thoughts. So please do keep checking back in. You can check them out on our website. You can check them out on Facebook. And with that, we'd like to close for tonight. And I hope everyone is feeling great. And we'll take a few of these tips and actually put them to use.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Really grateful for all the involvement and participation and your presence today. Love it. Thank you.